I received this HP Chromebook from a coworker. I didn't ask why he was giving it up, but I was glad to accept it. I'm hoping I can give it some new life either for myself or for someone else. Whatever the outcome, I'll soon see what this Chromebook can do next. This laptop is working fine, but there are still accounts on here that I want to erase. It's interesting my coworker didn't bother to erase the accounts, but I guess I can do that for him. I want to reinstall ChromeOS from scratch, just so I know this laptop will not have any residual information left from previous owners. I have these ChromeOS and Windows USB installers that I use for OS reinstalls. I just have to figure out what it takes to boot this laptop from the USB drive. I went through a bunch of HP documentation, and it was hard to figure out how to get into the BIOS to reconfigure the boot sequence. After trying to figure out how to get this laptop to boot from a USB drive for the last 3 days, with no success, I decided to resort to Plan B to change the boot sequence. At some point, I wanted to open this laptop up to take a look at the internals, but the reason for this disassembly is to see if either there's a way to disconnect the internal storage or maybe even set a jumper to select or disable a specific boot device. Once all 13 screws are removed, there are many snap-in tabs holding the topside keyboard housing in place. I'm using my thin guitar pick to disengage all the tabs. Keep in mind the snap-in tabs also run along the rear left and right edges of the keyboard housing, so be sure to get those before lifting the keyboard out. With the keyboard housing separated, there are still 2 ribbon cables to disconnect. Both are secured the same way, so simply lift the latch on the connector to loosen the cable, then pull the cable out from the connector. There's not much to this laptop. I did find the internal 16GB of storage, which ended up being a soldered-on chip, and there's no way to disable it. I'm reassembling the laptop. It's funny how there's not even anything that can be upgraded internally like the RAM or storage. The only parts that can be worked on are for repairs, for things like a screen that goes bad, a faulty touchpad, or a faulty keyboard. I do have a Plan C, which is a desperate attempt, but it's so simple I may as well give it a try. In documentation I came across at some point, I remember seeing mention of pressing F10 to get into the BIOS. I plugged in a USB keyboard to attempt this because the built-in keyboard has no function keys. I tried F10, Function F10, and Control F10, but all to no avail. I'm also thinking that ChromeOS may not have a BIOS chip in the device, sort of like Android, where instead of the BIOS, there's software separate from the OS and you access it using a hotkey. Okay, so I finally figured it out, but almost by accident. I had used hotkeys that I found in different documentation sources, but it was a combination of tips from different documents that resolved my problem. What I'll do is walk through the exact steps I performed to get the laptop to erase existing accounts and end up at the screen displayed now. Whether the computer is powered on or off, press Escape, Refresh, and Power simultaneously. Press Ctrl D, which is not an on-screen prompt. Press Enter to turn off OS verification. Press Spacebar to re-enable OS verification. Press Enter to confirm. OS verification is now on. A reboot will occur shortly. After the reboot, the setup screen will appear. I'm glad this Chromebook is working again. It seems like this make and model of computer is beyond its ChromeOS lifecycle, so a message does appear stating this computer will not receive any more updates from Google. I'm guessing that message is probably why my coworker retired this laptop and possibly picked up more current hardware. I can continue to use this Chromebook for as long as I want, but it would be at my own risk, since the updates it won't be receiving would include security patches. I hope this video can be of use to you with your Chromebook endeavors. Leave any questions or comments you have in the comment section below. That's all I have for now, and I'll catch you in the next video.